There's no point in hiding it. This is Jason in space. What did you expect? There aren't a lot of horror movies that take place in space, and the ones that do are usually the bottom of the barrel franchises like Critters, Hellraiser, and the worst one of all, Leprechaun. I know Leprechaun 4 has achieved that status of so bad it's good, but no, I legitimately hate that movie. So when I heard back in the early 2000s that Jason was joining the ranks of desperate slasher franchises, what do you think my reaction was? It wasn't overly enthusiastic, I can tell you that much. But they had a concept that sounded pretty cool, on paper. Jason, frozen in a block of ice, standing next to a would-be victim, also frozen. That sounded promising. Of course, what we got was completely different. I don't know how this could have been a good movie. When it comes to putting our boy Jason in space, there are some good ideas, some neat set pieces, but there is no way this movie was ever going to be taken seriously.
Oh, this sucks on so many levels!
The idea of Jason in space already sounds completely ridiculous, so how would you ever do it as a straight-up horror film? So, they basically made a hybrid horror comedy. I guess they were trying to copy the Scream formula, but Scream was clever, and if there's anything this movie ain't, it ain't clever. The humor in this movie just doesn't work. At its best, it knows it's self-aware. At least this movie knows it's dumb.
Sarge, we found Condor.
What's his condition?
He's screwed.
But the characters are so goofy, the one-liners so cringy, and the references are so awkward that once again, it almost doesn't feel like it's a part of the same franchise. Pop in the original Friday the 13th, and then directly afterwards pop in this. It's not even in the same genre. This feels like a bad sci-fi movie that just plops in Jason as an afterthought. They could have honestly created any monster that wasn't Jason, and it would still feel like just another dumb, generic sci-fi B-movie. It goes back to what I was saying with Jason in New York. Budget. Any sci-fi film that takes itself seriously needs a decent budget because everything has to be created from scratch. They were already shooting themselves in the foot because they obviously weren't going to have the budget to do anything worthwhile. So, the effects and the sets look extremely cheap, and anytime there's a sequence that had some kind of potential, it's kind of ruined by the low-rent CGI. There's never any suspense or actual horror because you end up laughing at something that probably wasn't designed to get a laugh. And to be fair, you can tell they weren't treating this as a serious movie. At least they don't have Jason pulling out a lightsaber. They could have taken this to a much more ridiculous, over-the-top direction, so I guess I'm kind of surprised that they used any restraint. And this might be an unpopular opinion, but I'm not a fan of the redesigned Uber Jason. He's not scary, and for something that was born out of nanotechnology, he doesn't do anything different from his normal form. This was an opportunity to really turn up the carnage by showing how much more deadly this cybernetic Jason could be. And instead, they turn him into a joke. This is a bad movie that pretty much makes fun of what it is. I wouldn't call it critic-proof, and it's not one I'd like to revisit often, but if you're in the mood for some cheap B-movie sci-fi schlock, at least it isn't Leprechaun 4. Fuck that movie.